Hello dear chess lovers, today I wanna show you a new game between Yevgeny Sveshnikov and Igor Ivanov. This game was played in 1976. Sveshnikov white pieces, Ivanov black pieces. Let's see this party. Sveshnikov e4, king's pawn opening, Ivanov c6, Caro-Kann defense, d4, d5, e takes d5, c takes d5, exchange variation, c4 pawn attack, e6 defending center, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3 developing, d takes c4 giving up the center, bishop takes c4, now bishop e7, isolated pawn on d4, but white has space advantage on the center. Bishop e7, castle short, rook e1, knight c6, bishop f4 developing, b6, wanted to develop light square bishop from long diagonal. Now d5 attacking knight, knight jumps to a5, counter attacking c4 bishop. In this position, white Sveshnikov made a mistake, d6 attacking black bishop. Instead of this, white has to continue with bishop f1. After knight takes d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, rook c1, bishop c5. In this position, although black has one more pawn, this pawn is isolated and on the center, so the game is almost equal. After d6, counter-attacking, knight takes c4 bishop, d takes e7. Now if black queen takes white's queen, pawn takes rook, and promoting after rook takes queen, so black's position is lost. So black has to take this pawn because pawn is forking to queen and rook. Queen takes e7, queen e2 attacking knight, knight retreat to d6, rook a to d1 attacking knight again, rook d8 defending knight. But that was mistake. Instead of this, black has to continue with knight f5. After knight jumps to d4, knight takes d4, rook takes d4, bishop b7, equal game on the board. Now black rooks are connected. In the game after rook d8, queen d3, attacking knight 3 times, knight jumps to b7 and counter attacking white's queen, knight d4, knight wanted to play d6, forking both queen and rook, queen jumps to c5, bishop e5. But that was mistake. Instead of this, white has to continue with rook e5. After knight d5, knight f5. Now in this position, if knight takes knight, queen takes rook check, knight takes queen, rook takes knight check, queen goes to f8, rook takes queen, king takes rook, and after b takes c3, and white wins material advantage. So in this position, instead of taking c3 knight, e takes f5, rook takes d5, rook takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop e6, and the position is almost equal. In the game after bishop e5 mistake, knight jumps to g4, bishop g3 also that was mistake. Instead of this, Sveshnikov has to continue with queen g3, knight takes e5, rook takes e5, queen f8, queen f3. Now queen is looking at a8 rook and pinning the knight. In the game after bishop's move, e5, attacking pin knight, b4 counter attacking black's queen. Instead of this w's move, white has to continue with h3, attacking knight. After e takes d4, h takes g4, bishop takes g4, knight jumps to e4, queen h5, f3, bishop e6, and the game is almost equal. Black's position is slightly better. After b4, queen takes b4, another w's move. Instead of this, black has to take this knight. After queen f3, attacking black's queen, queen takes b4, rook takes d8 check, knight takes d8, queen takes a8, queen takes c3, rook d1, knight jumps to e6, and black's position is slightly better. Black has 2 knights and 2 pawns against white's rook. In the game after queen takes b4, bishop takes e5, bishop e6, mistake. Instead of this, black has to take this bishop with knight. After rook takes e5, the game is almost equal. In the game after bishop e6, queen goes to g3, knight jumps to c5, knight c6, attacking black's rook, rook takes d1. Now white has no time for taking free queen because black's threat is rook takes e1, back rank mate. So in this position, after rook takes d1, queen goes to b2, and that was mistake. In this position, black queen has to go a3 and pinning this knight. Knight b8, h6, escape square for king, bishop d6, pinning the knight, queen b2, unpinning, h3, attacking knight, knight f6, queen f3, queen is now attacking black's rook on corner, king h7, king h2, queen c2, queen takes a8, queen takes c3, and now in this position, white has a rook but against black's knight, but black has also one more pawn at all, and the game is almost equal. In the game, after queen b2, mistake, bishop d4, knight jumps to d7, h3, knight g to f6, and knight jumps to d5, another mistake. Discovered attack the black's queen. Instead of this, white has to continue with knight e7 check, king f8, knight e to d5, bishop takes d5, knight takes d5, queen c2, rook e1, h5, rook e3, queen takes a2, queen d6 check, king goes to g8, and white's position is winning. After knight d5, queen c2, knight takes f6, knight takes f6, bishop takes f6, mate trade from g7, queen takes d1, check, king goes to h2, now g6 for preventing mate trade, queen f4. Now white's threat is queen h6 and g7 mate, queen hi for controlling h6 square, bishop d2, bishop d4. Now white's threat is queen f6, queen g7 again, king goes to f8, but that was mistake. Instead of this, black has to give up his queen, but after that move, bishop d4, there is no defense for black. King goes to f8, queen d6 check, king has to go g8, knight e7 check, king has to go f8 again, knight takes g6, double check, if king goes to e8, queen e7, kiss of death. In the game, king goes to g8, and Sveshnikov made a great queen sacrifice, queen f8. Now black king cannot take because of the knight, and in this position black resigned. If black continues, rook has to take this queen, and knight e7, great mate with knight and bishop. So after queen sacrifice, black Ivanov resigned, and Sveshnikov won this game with great performance, as you see. If you like this match, like and share this video and subscribe to my channel. See you on later videos. Goodbye.